Monika, a warm welcome from the advisory group and the TV team. And that's how focusing creates connection worldwide. We never met and knew each other before the French conference. And you were there, I were there, Harriet were there, many others. And then we get connected. And this is how the focusing world unfolds, feeling each other aliveness, each other passions. And you have a lot of passion for the philosophy and the TAE. And I know that kind of areas will become stronger and more aware in the whole focusing community. So I'm very honored and happy that we have you here. And so I'm personally looking forward to your presentation. And I want to read a little bit of your bio. Monika Katharina Lindner is an educationalist with a focus on intercultural learning and works as a project manager for German courses and lectures at the university. You are a certified focusing trainer, and as an experiential concept coach trainer, you are specialized in teaching the philosophical practice, thinking at the edge. So join me in creating space for Monika's presentations. So Monika, the stage is yours and enjoy it too.
Hello, and thank you, Renee, and also Len and Rita for holding this space with me. Yeah, it makes me feel comfortable. And hello to Veronica and Bettina and Manka and Harriet for being here. Yeah, maybe I start by sharing that how I got in touch with focusing at TAE. That was at university. It was a workshop I had to do for a training program there for teaching at university. And one workshop was about, do you want to create a project, maybe finish an article or whatever? And by the way, we will do this with TAE. So, and yeah, I went there and I experienced really kind of a culture shift, almost a shock, I would say. Yeah, being in the university with certain quality, a lot of hierarchy, pressure, having to have ideas already finished. Some kind of that quality, and then I enter a space where someone tells me, oh no, the unfinished thought, that's valuable. Take your time. I'm just here to listen to you. You don't have to explain me something. I offer you something. You can take it or leave it or do something totally different. So that's been kind of the new thing. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but it feels good and I need more of it. If I want to proceed in my own learning journey, I need it. I need that like air. And then I continued to do the training with Heinke Deloch, the German philosopher who did this experiential concept coaching. And then slowly I noticed this is not only good for me, but it also influences how I am as an educator. Like I'm in the field of second language acquisition. Now I work more with adults, but I had a time I worked a lot with teenagers. In German, we say young people who came from, who are refugees and come to Germany to escape to live in Germany now. So I just noticed how it influences my the way I am with them, the way I see learning, education, the contact, the pedagogical contact with them. And it made me curious to investigate that further. So that's my research interest. Finding ways to bring that kind of from the practice also into theory. I just heard in Barbara Dickinson workshop, she mentioned that there is no research done yet. If you go to a field and say, this is a good thing, focusing, let's implement it, you're with the research. So there's not much done yet. And that's my interest too, like to find ways to connect it with the existing research. So yeah, that's kind of my beginning, or to give you some orientation. And so we are a small group, and therefore I would like to invite you at any moment, if there's some question or something, just let me know that we go that together. Yeah, so maybe a couple of words about the title, like we are each other's environment. That is something that came up in a felt sense conference. We had a panel there with the Icelandic group, Embodied Critical Thinking, where we do research on that. And there this came out for me that this is very important in the pedagogical context or educational context. With the term of gentleman of environment, and I will come to that later, so maybe it's a little bit confusing here, but we know how much we need each other to support each other in growing, let's say, that we know by experience of focusing. And then also in educational context, we deal with a certain power. Like an educator always has a power. One can take it or not, ignore it or not, but there is some power to create the environment. And so I'm curious about how can we imagine a culture of moments of wonder. So moments of wonder holds the space for everything we know by being practitioners and focusing. How can we create a culture that's appropriate for these kind of processes? And yeah, so I'm putting here a couple of things together, and also kind of saying it the first time in a group like that, with a curiosity to spell it out more precisely afterwards. And that's kind of, this is more a laboratory here. Like I have some thoughts I want to share, and I'm interested how it meets you with your experience as focusers. Yeah, so just the takeaways would be to reflect on the importance of creating an environment, and we're using this term from the process model, environment 3, an environment that could establish focusing as the reality of children's lives, then experience how individual TAE movements can contribute to the clarification of one's own professional attitude, and realize that TAE can be used as a practice of self-reflection. So yeah, as I started with TAE, this is very present for me. So I didn't start with the classical focusing training, but with TAE. And I don't know if you are familiar with TAE. Is here someone who never heard about it? Maybe you just could give me a sign, or you at least heard about it. Maybe you're not practicing, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, so my plan for today is that we dance together, actually. I have to share, I'm just coming out of a tango class. I'm just learning tango the first time yesterday and today. And there I learned it's all about setting an attention and making an invitation, one partner, and the other partner is taking the invitation. And together then the movement is formed, the dance, it creates a we. So somehow I want to offer invitations here for movements, and you can take it and see if you want to follow and in which way. And there are 3 movements. The one is what I call here established concepts, issues, challenges, questions in pedagogy or education. I use the term pedagogy because, but you can also put education, but it refers more, it's not just a research on education, but it also has a hermeneutic understanding of being also in contact with the pedagogical practice and the theory and the reflecting and sense making out of that. So I wanna, for me, the educational sciences and pedagogy is full of concepts and wondering and asking that goes quite to the edge. And then there is kind of, okay, but we stay there. So for me, there are many interesting points where we could continue with what we know from focusing the practice, the TAE practice, but also the practice of being with Gentlin's philosophical terms. And so I will present you some concepts that exist in pedagogy and education, and then try to connect them or freshly resonate with them. I mean, that's an invitation we know from Gentlin too, that when there are existing concepts, freshly resonate. That's also a core movement of TAE. The world is full of concepts that structure our daily life and what we have to do, but we can freshly resonate. And in this sense, also like being with the philosophy is a practice for me, like focusing practice, TAE practice, the philosophy practice. And this, who knows TAE, knows at the end you can have a triangle with key core concepts. So somehow this is maybe already a emerging concept for me. And between, I put this term growing roots. Like I think I want to take some concept that exist, resonate freshly with what I know from Gentlin and my practice, and create a continuity. So if I wonder how to establish a culture of moments of wonder, it can't be like, no, what you said is stupid or so, or I think there has to be some kind of continuity or a growing with what is already there and then open up more. So I call it growing roots, and I'm going to present 4 growing roots today. So 1, 2 movements, and the third movement is practice with modified TAE moves. So I formulated some prompts that invite you to dip into your own experience, your own pedagogical educational experience, in order to explicate more and more of your professional attitude. And professional attitude is a term from the established concepts. I will come to that later. Yeah, so I have kind of, these are 3 movements. That's the invitation to do these movements with me in the way you feel comfortable. Yeah, is that clear so far? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and the first invitation is to just see that picture, that photograph, and notice your resonance. Like what comes up for you, also in the context of that conference, right? Moments of wonder. What becomes alive for you? And you are invited to share whatever comes up and what you feel safe to share in the chat. That will be kind of our main method here. This is what Lugianis calls chat waterfall that we share in the chat, and I will read it out loud now. For the moment, just like settle down in your focusing attitude and see what this image does to you or what becomes alive. you for sharing. And I'm going to read it out loud. And you are invited to be touched by what you hear. This is a TAE move of crossing, and here a silent crossing that you allow to be touched by what share others, and notice what opens up for you. If there's something more that comes with hearing that. So fertilize the ground. I like dirty hands by children. Safety, giving, and a gift. Simplicity. This is me. Do you see, feel, and acknowledge this? Start with touching the ground. Clarity. Stillness of hibernation. Hibernation. Yeah, thank you for that. We take it in and take it with us, and we will kind of do this chat waterfall with other questions later too. From that place and with that image, I want to say or share a couple of words about moments of wonder, or what is the wonder, what is the magic, and focusing, and also TAE. And kind of the established concept here I could connect is all this wondering about implicit knowledge, or that we know more than we can say, that, or also experience-based learning. Those are terms that are educational science is dealing with. And also this wondering of like, what can we say when words end, these places? Like that maybe sounds even strange to say it here in a focusing context because it's so clear for us, but it's not clear in the educational science. Like I was in places where it was like, yeah, okay, there's research done about emotions, how to be with emotions. But then if you come and say, okay, this is part of the situation, of course, emotions are important, but don't fall into them. There's more. Then it's kind of, that's a strange thing. So yeah, how can we get in touch with something we know but don't have in language? Like that seems something hard to be with, something we don't have in language, whether it's experience, implicit knowing. And yeah, I referred to a talk Donata Scholler gave at the Embodied Critical Thinking Symposium in 2019, where for me it became more clear, like she spoke about the magic of TAE, focusing, of course, is the basic process of TAE, you know, that you have this responsiveness of I make space, I allow felt sense to come to form, and then I find symbols for it. I try to express it, and I look for the responsiveness. Is it what it is, what I mean, what this means? So that with TAE, focusing on TAE, we can touch the individual experience and the lived intricacy in all its complexity, that we don't have to start with the senses, which is a very strong assumption so far, that it starts with the senses, and that we can't speak about something that's beyond. And we can think from the midst of our life, we can let meaning grow from there with this responsiveness, precision. Like it is about being more and more precise about what the situation is about. So we can, following like, I'm not going too deep into that, but it's about a big thing in philosophy, thinking for yourself and thinking critically. And there's a power that we have to newly differentiate and create fresh, meaningful concepts. Like, we are living in situations that are very much patterned, especially school has plans of what you learn. And so, but we have an individual power of newly differentiate and create fresh, meaningful concepts. And then the magic also comes, like, once we make it to explicate what is implied, we have this felt shift feeling. So it almost seems magical, like, oh, it's about that. So, and TAE also, yeah, I mean, TAE, more than focusing, or especially TAE, engages to develop our own language for our implicit knowing, which for me is a huge power, because it engages this concept creating. Like, this is, we are born into a culture and to language, but we are able to create our own language that has our meaning and that carries forward our situations from our lived space. Yeah, I pause here. That's so far what I would say about this moments of wonder. What's the wonder here? The magic, the wonderful. And if you're ready to follow me, I would carry it forward to this image and to the question of culture, how to create a culture, or how would a culture be that had this kind of magic, processes that allowed this kind of magic or wonder. And yeah, a forest became a very important metaphor for me, because there are trees, are individual plants, but together they form a new whole. So a forest is a very interactive, if it's not interrupted and following its own processes, healthy and very complex system, but a new whole. And a bunch of things are going on there. And it's from living processes. I mean, we could also say, yeah, there are towns that are also functioning wholes, but forest has something that brings me to an edge also, because I find it interesting. These are living processes. A tree, yeah, and we with Chandler, we can also understand better that we have processes like plants, and we have also processes like animals, and then we have processes like humans, and then they're also focusing like processes. Yeah, and if I think about existing concepts in the educational science, then of course, like pedagogical anthropology, of course, knows about how we highly interdependent we are. A baby is born into the world, into the social environment. It dies if we don't hold it and feed it and give it warmth. So there's a knowing about how highly interactive we are. We depend on that. We need it for surviving, for learning. Our brain and nervous system can't develop in a healthy way if there's no interaction and caring. And all these processes of enculturation, socialization, education, individualization kind of know about this interactiveness. And then, of course, and I really try to speak here freshly, is if we then take some terms from Chandler, and this is from the process model at the very beginning, where he spells out environment. What is environment? And he comes up with this term, body and environment are one event, one process. Environment number two is always in some process and identical with the body in some process. Like, he gives us a term, a concept that addresses the happening now. I'm breathing now, I'm listening. Though the happening now, we can have it differently with that. And from this happening now, this environment 2, we create an environment number 3. So N3 is the environment that has been arranged by the body N2 process. So I'm eating, and with the eating, I create an N3, my body. Also, but it's way more. It's also the way I'm speaking, the way I'm giving attention, the way I'm listening, kind of all things create an environment 3. And in this environment 3, N2 is going on. So, and I find this so helpful because it also gives us maybe some power for the change we want as a focusing community, that each bit of N2 we enable creates an environment 3 where then it can go on, other kind of processes can happen. So in a culture of wonder would be for me about how this inging, this focusing, this experiencing can happen as a natural process, like breathing, kind of in continuity of breathing. I'm breathing and I'm sense making by experiencing. And another term from the process model, where he defines culture, and culture can be defined as the structure of situations, the patterning of human interaction. Culture is very many contexts implicit in each other. Contexts are situations. Situations always involve interaction, even being away from others, being alone, interacting with oneself. These are special cases of interaction. Yeah, that helps me to understand this highly complex and but also connectedness of culture that comes from living interactions, and that creates something, and that living goes on. Yeah, I pause here. And I invite you again to TAE move. That's kind of the first TAE move, let a felt sense form. And I invite you to let a felt sense form for an assumed future culture. So with channeling, we can also understand that time is not linear. By attending the now, we have access to the past, or the past is functioning in the now, but also in a future, an imagined future. And yeah, I invite you to let a felt sense form from your experience as a focuser, as an educator, someone being in the field of education. How is the culture of moments of wonder like? And you're invited to share it in the chat if you feel like. Yeah, and I will read out loud what you shared, and you're also again invited to do a silent crossing from what you hear. An open, accepting, peaceful place. Holding, waiting, and anticipating on implicit aliveness. Freedom of discovery, allowing discovery. Free and expansive, unknown in a good way. Embracing emptying. Invitation to soften, release the self-holding of the body and mind. Melting like chocolate. There are some places already exist this. Big wish to come more and more. A smile emerging from the eyes, not the lips. Thank you. Yeah, and we will take that with us. It's like in the TAE process, we always take with us what we could already spell out and formulate. We have that now said, that's that way. It's already real. It's already kind of reality. There's something more, humility. Yeah, well, here we can we could spend more time here, but I want to take you further. I want to kind of bring you back to reality and the complexity of the here and now. And I want to kind of also push you a little bit into the ickiness and the problems of what we are dealing in probably most societies of the world addressing education. Yeah, I introduced here a term that's specific to German, actually, that's called Bildung. So there's pedagogy, education, and we have a term that's called Bildung. And Bildung is here considered as a process of transformation that transforms fundamental figures of the way subjects relate to themselves and the world when grappling with experience of crisis that challenge their present relations to the world and themselves. So, in a short to say, education as such is dealing with complexity and crises of human development. So that's kind of the content. If you're, doesn't matter which field you are, or if you're a teacher or therapist, whatever, this is kind of what we're dealing with. And so when I'm addressing existing concepts, I try to find them, and for sure it's not fully, but I just touch some. Another is, and I use here a quote of Gabor Mate, where he says, the myth of normal is that we assume the conditions of society are healthy simply because we're used to them. This is something I notice a lot, or I just recently noticed by teaching students who become social workers. They had to work on a dilemma. And at some point, we really had to realize that the normality of the work is dealing with dilemma. They are all the time dealing with some kind of dilemma because their clients are somehow dropping out of the normal, and they always they're always challenged. So there's a highly complexity in with what we are doing, and often running against something that is established as the normal culture, or supposed to be the normal. And I could add here more. For me, for example, it is very often also important to see like the structure, the culture we established, the institutional culture. Like in Germany, for example, at the moment, we don't have enough teacher. So we put more children in one class and we put more work on the teacher that are already kind of burned out. And also the burning out is a indicator of, I mean, how exhausted our bodies are already with the culture we try to carry forward with the ickiness. And so there are a bunch of established concepts or facts or things we can notice. And then if I allow myself to reflect from a gentlean perspective, there's probably a lot from the philosophy. I don't address that here, but it's about the having the what we know about stock processes. But I want to mention here a quote from the introduction to TAE. There's one TAE move that addresses specifically the paradox or the more than logical. He says, what seems illogical may be the most valuable part. Please assure yourself that you're not dropping this out. And of course, we know this also from the focusing practice that it is important to look where there is something stuck, problematic, or more than logical. And the more than logical is also like, yes, okay, maybe that's normal and everyone agrees on that, but I feel here's something more to discover. Here's a paradox. Here's something not logic in the normal sense. So I think it's a very valuable move in TAE to open the space for that, and we will do it shortly here. I mean, this could also be a one-day session, but here's the invitation to try it out with your experience. If you connect with your situation you're in, what is more than logical in your pedagogical situation? And can you say it in a phrase like it is X and it is not X? Like being a teacher is a very valuable job and it is very exhausting at the same time, for example. Or you can also use a phrase like on the one hand and on the other hand, kind of supports to bring it in terms. Yeah, and again, if you feel like you're invited to share in the chat. And then read out loud what is shared, and you can do silent crossing if you want. So, on the one hand, it is an adventurous journey. And on the other hand, it is hard work. On the one hand, the teaching material needs to be covered. On the other hand, I don't want to leave people behind. Solving problems quick to move forward and create space for the uniqueness and slowest process. It is more about the person than the teaching material. On the one hand, the adult participants come to the class for presence and self-connection. On the other hand, they spend all the time talking about past stories. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I just want to make the connection to the moments of wonder, because for me, from my experience with TAE, here's a huge potential to spell out the complexity, like to look on that, to be brave, and that has a power of change already once I can say what makes it complex in my situation. And there's one more. On the one hand, we know we need time for moments of wonder. On the other hand, we want to achieve and get outcomes. Yeah, so breathing that in and knowing, okay, we have a way to spell it out, to say it, to address it. I take you to a last move to round it up also a little bit. It's about, okay, in this, we have this wanting of a culture of moments of wonder. We have this complexity we are in, what guides us. And TAE has a third phase where you can create the theory. And maybe that's a big term, theory, but you can formulate in language something that gives you orientation. With you then can go to the leader of your school or so and say, look, this and this and that. So it gives us power to act. And I want to address an existing concept in education, in the German educational science. It's called professional pedagogical attitude. There's a research team that's investigating that, and the idea is having an attitude and doing work of self-reflection on the attitude helps to act more oriented in complex situations. Like when I'm in the classroom and everything is happening, I have rarely a moment of pausing and reflecting, but to have an attitude spelled out, what matters to me, can give orientation and can support to have a coherent acting through over different situations. And I find that concept very interesting because it kind of, TAE is predestinated for spelling out a professional pedagogical attitude. That's kind of the practical moves we did today. And of course, there's phase 2 in TAE where you can address your experience, where you can really kind of the treasure of your lived experience as a teacher, you can address that and explicate patterns out of that. We don't go there today, but I just feel like, okay, here's a huge potential for TAE to connect it with something existing. And yeah, that's the last invitation today. If you think about your situation, what guides you in complex pedagogical situations? How can you express the core of your professional pedagogical attitude? As if it would be an inner compass, or a star that is guiding you. And can you express it in one fresh term or sentence? Start reading out loud. I'm here for the long haul. There is no rush. I give myself permission to take my time to let things emerge till it comes from deep within the body. I lean back and breathe. I ask myself, what's going on? I'm more connected with me and the children than the learning points like spelling words. My felt essence to create connection. Pausing, step back for a while. Allowing a moment of slowing down to take in and name the complexity. Something fresh needs to come here. Take time to return to it, broadening the perspective for the benefit of all. Yeah, so thanks for that last sharing. And yeah, we're coming to our harvesting and sharing time, or spend the last minutes together of harvesting and sharing. Yeah. And it would be time to share something about what you heard, comments or questions, or what came up for you. Is it, what does it do to you? Does it make sense? Or
well, should I start? Say something. I really liked this kind of. I don't have words yet. this new way, fresh way of look at things, as like it's almost like another approach, and still I don't know it. I know it very well also. So yeah, it gave me really ideas of how to use TAE for myself, and look from it to as another perspective. Yeah, so thank you. It was very, and also the sharing in this way is always also give me yeah, more perspectives, like it's more whole. So.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe what I want to add here and didn't mention at the beginning. So I think TAE is, by knowing it by yourself as a teacher, it is almost, I say it like that now, it's easy to bring it in, because for example, I started to name paradoxes for my students. And it just became a natural attitude that I said, oh yeah, I see it's like this and like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think TAE has a potential to, we don't have to make a special focusing setting and name it, but just to say, oh yeah, of course, it's paradox. It's like this and like that. Yeah, sure. So, or let's yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I can bring this in. Yeah. Right. Thanks.
Guess I can share something. I just found the what's the word? A real sense of delicacy in the way that you've invited us to consider educational issues. Usually they can be quite, oh, this is just too difficult. But in a way, there's something really fresh and organic about this, and I really like your chat waterfall, and how you open up the sentences. You know, like invitation of naming paradoxes. It's on the one hand like this, but it's also like this. So I really like the the freshness and the there's a word that is not coming yet. There's a there's a gentleness about the language that you've used that is just goes so much more. So yeah, thank you. TAE in action.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, what comes to me here is that I think it has a potential also to bridge the theory practice gap, because it engages so much to work with your own experience and to resonate to theoretical concept that might be big or ooh,
yes.
But then to find, okay, what does it mean for me in my context? And yes. I find that super interesting for, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, we're coming in the last minutes, so it's your you already condensed it, but it's your last minute, and then the last shoot is for Elaine.
For me, yeah, I just thank you for being here with me and trying it out, because it's really, it was like, I want to try this. Like, it's an idea I have. This could make sense, or it's like that, and to try it out. And I think it could be done in a week or so, with, of course, doing it more slower and with more TAE moves. And yeah, I think there's a power in doing this cultural shift by becoming more the N3, living from that process.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I just notice how important it is to have a group to do it together. It's not a single person work. Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Hopefully all the participants will see this presentation.
Yeah.
So thank you for your offering. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you at another moment.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.